what did you find out that we are not freest?
Just inflation. Just inflation is inflation caused by Justin Trudeau's policies. We have to reverse his policies to make life affordable again. I would never allow Bill 21 to become a federal law in the national government. It is a total mess, and Trudeau promised he was going to fix health care. He's done nothing, and the problem has only worsened. BC, the policy is safe supply. Keep giving more drugs to drug addicts. Doesn't matter where they come from, whether their name is Singh or Smith, whether the name is Martin or Muhammad. They can work hard and achieve their dreams, and that's the country that we're going to bring back here in Canada.
ਪੰਜਾਬੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਨੇੜੇ ਰਾਜਨੀਤੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੈ, ਸਾਡੇ ਖੂਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੈ ਰਾਜਨੀਤੀ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ। ਅਸੀਂ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਐਕਟਿਵਲੀ ਰਾਜਨੀਤੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹਰ ਵਕਤ ਰਹਿਣਾ, ਸੈਂਟਰ ਸਟੇਜ 'ਤੇ ਹੋਈਏ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਹੋਈਏ, ਰਾਜਨੀਤੀ ਸਾਡੀਆਂ ਰਗਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੈ। ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੀ ਲੀਡਰਸ਼ਿਪ ਚੋਣ ਉਸ ਦੀ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ, ਜਿਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਿਸਟਰ ਪੀਅਰ ਪੋਲੀਐਵ ਨੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਰੈਕਡ ਮੈਂਬਰਸ਼ਿਪ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਬਣਾਈ ਆ 3 ਲੱਖ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ, ਅਤੇ ਸੈਪਟੰਬਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੀਡਰਸ਼ਿਪ ਦੀ ਚੋਣ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ। ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬੈਲਟਸ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਮੇਲ ਇਨ ਕਰ ਦਿੱਤੇ ਗਏ ਨੇ, ਸਤੰਬਰ ਦੇ ਫਸਟ ਵੀਕ ਤੱਕ ਉਹ ਜਾਣਗੇ। ਮਿਸਟਰ ਪੋਲੀਐਵ ਅੱਜ BC ਦੇ ਦੌਰੇ 'ਤੇ ਨੇ, ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਆਈਲੈਂਡ, ਨੈਮੋ ਅਤੇ ਡੰਕਨ ਦੇ ਏਰੀਏ 'ਚ ਵਿਕਟੋਰੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸੀ। ਅੱਜ ਉਹ ਸਾਡੀ ਸਟੂਡੀਓ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਨੇ, ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸੁਣਿਆ। ਸੋ ਅੱਜ ਮਿਸਟਰ ਪੋਲੀਐਵ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਮਿਸਟਰ ਪੋਲੀਐਵ, welcome to show. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me, Harjit. Great to be with you.
Thank you. It's very good to sit
Absolutely.
face to face.
Absolutely. Thank goodness, not by phone this time, but in person.
Thank you. So how is campaign going on?
Amazing. We just had 2 massive rallies on Vancouver Island, one in Sydney, the other in Nanaimo. And what I'm hearing is that people want to take back control of their lives, their economic lives. Here in British Columbia, house price inflation has made housing out of reach for our working class, our immigrants, and our youth. In fact, Vancouver is the third worst housing bubble in the world. Canada overall is the second worst. This has happened as house prices have doubled under Justin Trudeau. And now people are getting hit with the uppercut of higher interest rates on their mortgages, something that the Trudeau government promised would never happen anytime soon. And so what do we have to do? Well, we have to stop printing money and start building houses. And what I proposed is that the federal government should link the number of dollars that big cities get for infrastructure to the number of houses they allow to get built, so that we can remove the government gatekeepers and allow fast, affordable building permits to get millions of new homes built. I'm going to require every single transit station that's funded by the federal government have approval for apartment buildings around it so young people can live next to buses and trains. And I'm going to sell off 15% of the 37,000 federal buildings that are underutilized today so we can convert them into housing and use the proceeds of the sale to pay down our deficit.
How feasible it is? It is very simple for a statement. What policies you will shape it up?
Well, it should be simple. We have the land. We have the second biggest land mass of any nation on earth. We have the most land of any G7 country, even though we have the fewest houses. Why do we have the fewest houses per capita in the G7? And the most land per capita in the G7. Well, government gatekeepers are standing in the way. There are other things we need to do, though. We need to speed up immigration for construction workers. We don't have enough construction workers, so we should allow fast sponsorship of first temporary foreign workers who can become permanent and then citizens if they have a construction skill and a job offer. Then we should lower income taxes so that our people have bigger paychecks that they can keep to pay their monthly mortgage bill. All of this will make it possible for our young people, our working class, and our immigrants to own a home, which is a key to building up home equity, building up collateral, starting a family.
Let's start one by one. Your slogan, freest country in the world.
Yes.
So, from where you got this slogan? What did you find out that we are not freest?
Well, we let's start with economic freedom. When young people cannot afford fuel and food, when single mothers have to put water in their children's milk just to pay the grocery bill, when inflation is at a 40-year high and running 3 times wage growth, people don't have economic freedom. Yesterday I met a woman. She had to shut down her Nanaimo bar business in Nanaimo because
Right
the cost.
in Nanaimo.
Yeah, right in Nanaimo. She was making Nanaimo bars, selling them on the street during COVID. But then the price of eggs, sugar, and chocolate and other ingredients went so high that she could no longer afford to make Nanaimo bars. When you can't afford to make Nanaimo bars in Nanaimo, you know that inflation is out of control. I call it just inflation. Just inflation is inflation caused by Justin Trudeau's policies. He has run $500 billion of deficits in 2 years, doubled our national debt, added more debt than all other prime ministers combined. More money, chasing fewer goods means higher prices. Plus, all of his taxes are driving up the cost for businesses to produce our goods. The more he spends, the more things cost. It's just inflation. I'm going to reverse that by capping government spending to balance the budget, lowering the taxes so our businesses can produce more for our consumers, and our paychecks are bigger. That is how we're going to counter this just inflation and let people take back control of their economic freedom.
About this inflation,
Yeah.
most of the politicians in the world, wherever you look at the political arena, they all dump their the weight on COVID.
Yeah.
How it is the COVID? We can give blame to COVID. At the
No.
time?
Look, our economy has been largely open now from lockdowns for a year and a half. We can't blame it any longer on COVID. Furthermore, COVID should have brought down prices because it brought down demand. But what has happened is that the federal government under Trudeau has printed so much money. A lot of the deficit spending is paid for with printed cash. They've added $400 billion to our money supply. More. If you have an economy with 10 loaves of bread and $10, it's $1 for each loaf.
Yes.
If you double the dollars to 20, you still have 10 loaves of bread. Well, now
pay
it's
$2.
$2. So more money chasing the same number of goods always equals higher prices. Countries like Switzerland have very low inflation. Why? Because they didn't print money. They protected the purchasing power of their franc. And they kept their budget close to balance. Here in Canada, with Trudeau's taxes and inflationary deficits, we're paying more. We have to reverse his policies to make life affordable again.
Another freest country, lately, you might have heard or read the Twitter whistleblowers. There's security lapses. One of the security officer in Twitter.
Sorry, what's this?
In the
Twitter.
Yeah, there's a whistleblower inside. He said that the publics, all who are tweeting, their security, their personal information is shared.
Oh, okay.
There's another thing in the freest country. If a person is free, then you live in a freest country. What do you think about these foreign government influence, specifically China, Huawei? So much is going on. What do you have thought on that?
Yeah, look, I don't think foreign government should interfere in our domestic politics. They only do it for one reason, and that is to advance their interests at the expense of ours. So we should work hard to protect Canadians against any infiltration from any foreign government, and we should protect the digital security of Canadians from large tech companies and the Trojan type technology that gets them into our personal data. People should never, the rule is very simple. You should never have your data shared without your permission.
Bill C-21, we discussed it many times, and a religious person, the freest country is that, in his eyes, when he is free to do his religious beliefs and religious practice.
Yes.
So what do you think about that bill C-21? Can that wind blow to another provinces in some time, or you are very firm? If you are very firm, what will be the policy you are going to introduce, being a PM?
So I am against Bill 21. I
Yes.
have said so in English
Yes.
and in French in Quebec and in the rest of Canada. Bill 21 bans government workers from wearing what the government calls
Yes.
religious symbols. I believe that while the state should be secular, that doesn't mean that every single person who works for the state has to be secular, right? Every single person is a human being in and of themselves with their own freedom to express their religious faith or non-religious faith. So I believe that you should be free to wear any religious symbol you want, and that the government should not tell you what to wear. So that is my approach. I would never allow Bill 21 to become a federal law in the national government, and I would continue to speak out against it at a provincial level as well.
Specifically, just like any premier, whatever happened in Quebec, if someone, any person got that idea and he wants to introduce it, is there any tool do you have, or will you have any policy in place?
Well, the federal government does not have control over provincial laws.
Okay.
Only the provinces do. I have not seen any interest by any of the other provinces in replicating or copying that law, nor do I think that would happen anywhere else in Canada. There's also a lot of people in Quebec who don't like the law. So many of them speak out, and we'll see what happens. Maybe at some point it will be reversed.
Most of the politicians, they got quiet when they go to Quebec. They don't say it.
Well, I said it. I
yeah.
said it in French in Montreal. I think I might even have shared the video
Yes,
with you.
yes,
Yeah,
you sent it.
I was asked on the stage in Montreal, and I said I was against the bill very clearly, and I said it in French.
Another thing we discussed in our last interview about compassionate conservatism. You introduced last time to get religious places in your government policy, just like George W. Bush have that type of office in his White House. What do you think about that?
Well, one area I was very proud of when I was in government was to fund security for temples, mosques, synagogues, churches, so that they can protect themselves against hate-based crimes. That includes security cameras, fencing, security guard personnel to protect against attacks. And I would support increasing that and covering more of those expenses so that people can worship in freedom and peace. I think we also, the problem with big government is that it crowds out community. The bigger the government gets, the less room that is left for community life. And so it kind of shrinks the role of churches, temples, etc., to do some of the important work of caring for the poor, feeding the homeless,
Yes.
providing for the less fortunate. And what we need to do is empower the charitable sector to do more, because often it can be more responsive to the needs of people than just having a massive government trying to do everything. Government that tries to do everything ends up doing everything poorly.
Another thing, when I moved 25 years ago, there was a slogan out for the healthcare. There's another pillar of freest country is healthcare. I did about 10 shows about shortage of doctors,
Yeah.
shortage of hospital beds. If we compare to Europe, they have 5 doctors, 5 beds per 1,000 people.
Right.
We have 2.5 beds, 2.5 doctors per 1,000.
Okay.
So we are in very bad shape. People are waiting for months and months for their scanning, for knee replacement for 2 years. Obviously, if there's life-saving surgeries, they do it when they need it. But how you will fix this healthcare with big backlog and so much? It's mess now.
It is a total mess. And, Trudeau promised he was going to fix health care. He's done nothing, and the problem has only worsened. Look at one of the simplest and lowest cost ways we can have more doctors is to recognize internationally trained medical graduates. So we have thousands and thousands of international medical graduates. I was speaking to a doctor in Calgary 2 days ago who said that Alberta alone has 2,000 international medical graduates that can't practice because they can't get a license from their provincial licensing body. So what I'm proposing is, because immigration is a shared federal provincial responsibility, I'm going to try to sign a deal with the provinces to bring in a 60-day guarantee. Within 60 days of a foreign-trained doctor applying to work in a Canadian province, they should get a yes or a no based on their tested abilities, not based on where they come from. We should create a common standard of testing across the country for the professions, like we have with the Red Seal for the trades, so that it's clear in every Canadian, whether you're born here or born in another part of the world, you've passed the same examination process. I'm going to allow immigrants to begin licensing before they even come here. So if you're a forthcoming immigration doctor, in the doctor or a nurse, you can begin working on your license before you even get into Canada. And then finally, I'm going to back up 30,000 small study loans for those immigrants who are not quite yet at the Canadian standard, but just need to, they just need to get 2 months off work. Small study loan, study up, get licensed, get a huge pay raise, going from being a barista to being a doctor. Now they've gone from 30,000 to 300 grand a year, easily pay the loan back. And guess what? That same money can then be lent out to another. And that's one way you can recycle the same dollar over and over again to springboard more people into the doctor's office and get Canadians the care they need.
So it will be for all the professions, because there's a streamline for specific for the immigrants, for the professionals. Once they landed here, they get their degree certified by the concerned organizations, associations. Once they come here, landing here, they will ask to go for 20 or 25 plus courses that will take 4 years. So it will be for all professions?
That's my goal. I mean, look, the regulation of the professional occupations is at a provincial level. However, we do sign immigration deals with the provinces. They have certain demands on how to improve the system. My demand will be fast recognition of credentials. And I like this idea of a 60-day turnaround. Yes, no, because sometimes it's years of maybe, and fill out this form and we'll get back to you. Also, I want a merit-based system. So you can't line up the education systems all around the world. They're all different. But what you can do is have a common testing and evaluation standard to prove ability. I'll give you the craziest example. So we had the Aviation Association testify in Parliament. It tells the story of an aviation mechanic working for Air Canada in Munich, in Germany, fixing up Canadian planes while he's in Munich. No problem. 15 years. Never did any of his planes fall out of the sky. Same guy comes to Canada. He says, well, I'll just keep my job with Air Canada, right? He can't get a license to practice, cannot do the same mechanical work in Canada on the same planes for the same company that he was doing in Germany. Gatekeepers. I call it the gatekeeper economy. So this guy then can't be a mechanic, and now we have a shortage of mechanics in aviation.
And a pilot as well.
And pilots as well. So when you've proven you've got the ability, it shouldn't matter where you come from. There should be a common test to prove you're able and a license to go with it.
You are in leadership race now, you are coast to coast, you are going to all different core of neighborhood. You've been to our families, our gatherings. We are all family-based community, unite family. We live together for 3 generations. And now there's a backlog in immigration system. 1.5 million applications are waiting. And to get a passport, you have to be in line and wait for 3 or 4 days. There's advertisements on Marketplace and Facebook to hold a spot, $500. So that's what the Canada now looks like. So how will you remove this backlog?
Yeah, this is Justin Trudeau's Canada. You have to wait, sometimes 24 hours sitting on a chair or camping out in a tent in a government parking lot to get a passport. You have to, the chaos at our airports, the ArriveCan app, which is a disaster at our borders. This is Justin Trudeau's fault. He is responsible at a federal level for airports, passports, and borders, and none of them are working. By the way, immigration isn't processing either. So everything he's supposed to be doing, he's doing badly. We have an incompetent government, and we need to process fast passports, get rid of the ArriveCan app, get the airports functioning again, get rid of the remaining vaccine mandates, COVID vaccine mandates, so that people can quickly and seamlessly get across the border and visit with relatives, and get our government doing its basic responsibilities. This is the problem. The government is trying to do too many things. They want to take over your pharmacy, your child care. They want to take over what you see and say on the internet. Why don't they focus on doing their core responsibility? Passports, airports, borders. Back to basics, please.
About economy, about GDP.
Yes.
Fossil fuels.
Yes.
Car manufacturing, motorcycle manufacturing. For the fossil fuels, world is going to cleaner energy. California lately said that in 2035 there were no conventional vehicle they are allowed to sail. So how will you use this transition? Because you have very deep base in Alberta.
Right.
The money is flowing from there. Then BC government make so many promises, but for the liquefied natural gas, our pipes are coming to our coast here, the pipelines. And that oil, the crude oil, whatever form, is going south across the border in Bellingham and refined there. The jet fuel coming back from there. The same we are sending logs and 2x4 are coming from states and we are selling it here.
Right.
So about the GDP, about the fossil fuel, about the manufacturing units, what do you think?
Well, according to the International Energy Agency, for the next 20 years, the world will continue to consume between 60 and 100 million barrels of oil every day. That 60 million is the lowest project. That's even if the most aggressive government policies are implemented in every country in the world, we'll still, as a world, be using 60 million barrels a day. So the question is, where does it come from? Should it come from dirty dictatorships with poor environmental standards, or should it come from Western Canada? Western Canadian energy sector is burying carbon back in the ground where it came from. They have the potential to shift from coal and natural gas-powered electricity for the oil sands to zero-emission nuclear. And that would allow us to be the cleanest and lowest emitting upstream energy, oil sector in the world. And it would keep the money here rather than it going to foreign dictatorships abroad. I believe we should end imports of overseas oil. We could do that by approving Newfoundland's plan to increase its production. That would end the tankers coming over across the Atlantic. And then on natural gas, we have 1,300 trillion cubic feet of natural gas, but we do not export a single cubic foot of it overseas. It goes to the States, which is a discount for us. Look what's happening in Europe right now.
Yes.
Putin is funding his war machine by using his control of the natural gas market in Europe. Germany is sending money to Moscow for gas. We've helped Putin maintain his pipeline. Today we learned that Hungary is now signing a big deal with Gazprom, Russia's natural gas company, to buy more gas from Putin. Why don't we sell that gas? We can liquefy it, the cleanest in the world. Why? We have hydroelectricity, which is zero emitting in BC, Quebec, Newfoundland. 2, liquefying gas to get it on a ship involves cooling it down. What do we have here? Cold weather. So it's 25% cheaper and less energy intensive to cool gas into liquid than it is in the southern United States. So we could be the cleanest, lowest emitting source of natural gas for the entire world. And by the way, that would allow Asia to break its dependence on coal. You can replace coal fire stations with natural gas stations. You reduce the emissions by 50% just like that. So let's ship our natural gas to China, to India, to other places. And by the way, let's ship our civilian-grade uranium to India. The Indian government has said now it wants to go towards nuclear, to shut down coal. We have the biggest supply of uranium on Earth in Saskatchewan. We can ship it in civilian grade, so it's not used for warfare or nuclear weapons, and then nuclearize. There's no way that we can reduce global emissions without nuclear energy. There's just no base load other than hydroelectricity. There is no zero emitting base load electricity supply that is better than nuclear. And we have the uranium and the expertise to do it. Let's export it to the world. That's how you fight climate change.
About the infrastructure, shipping terminals, Western Canada is not feasible for Europe. And from here to pipeline to Atlantic is not feasible either. We don't have any pipeline. What do you think about that?
I support east-west pipelines. I've said that in Quebec, by the way.
Okay.
And I'm willing to defend that in Quebec. In fact, many Quebecers support the idea of a pipeline for natural gas because that would allow a liquefaction facility in Quebec powered by hydroelectricity that we would ship gas over to Europe to break European dependence on Putin. The Trudeau government killed the major Quebec-based natural gas liquefaction project, a $14 billion project. It did major damage to British Columbia and Alberta because the gas was going to come from the west. Quebecers do not agree with Trudeau on that. They want the jobs. They want the jobs, the paychecks to go to Jean-Marie Tremblay in Saguenay, the welder, not to Putin's war machine. And I agree with Quebecers on that.
How about law enforcement? How you enforce our all police agencies and our armored forces? What do you think?
Well, look, we're seeing the crime wave right across the country. Trudeau's spending $1 billion going after hunters and sport shooters and buying back sporting rifles and pellet guns when we know that's not the problem. The guns that are shooting up our neighborhoods are smuggled illegally in from the United States and used by repeated offenders. So my approach would be to put the money into bolstering our border to keep the smugglers out, and two, toughening the justice system to jail the repeat violent offenders. Look, we should have rehabilitation for a young person who makes a single mistake when they're in their early 20s or something. But we're talking about violent gun criminals that shoot up our streets, that sell guns to gangsters. They get caught, they get sentenced, and then they get released. And then they do the same thing again and again and again. And those are the ones who are shooting up the streets in Montreal, Calgary, Vancouver, Toronto. Let's put the repeat violent criminals in prison and keep our streets safe.
How about the drug trafficking? Overdose drugs, overdose deaths, 6 or 7 average. This is not in third world country. This is Canada. What do you have in mind?
You know where it's getting better, though? Alberta, because they have invested in recovery. Here in BC, the policy is safe supply. Keep giving more drugs to drug addicts. The solution is to give every addict the chance for recovery. And so my approach would be to put the money into inpatient recovery treatment. So you bring the addict off the street, give them detox to get the poisons out of their system, and give them a 60 to 90 day recovery program that breaks their addiction, deals with the underlying causes of what is bringing them back to drugs again and again, sets up a plan for them to restart their lives drug-free and with a job. And in Alberta, they've been doing this now for about a year. Overdoses are plummeting. They're going way down, 50, 60%, enormous success. It's the only place in Canada where they're succeeding at reducing opioid overdoses. We have to replicate the Alberta model of recovery, not, unfortunately, the BC model, which is just to give people more drugs and allow drug dealers to traffic it. That is not working.
How about money laundering? millions of dollars are getting in. If you come with 200, 300,000 cash landing at Vancouver Airport, you have to tell CBSE, they tell FinTrack, and you are allowed to go, whether you are on visit visa or PR, and that money is getting in our real estate, and hardworking Canadians can't afford that house. And your housing policies, there should be some bar for the bar. Now there should be some tools to stop that money laundering, illegal money
Absolutely.
laundering.
You know, Canada has become a hub for money laundering under Justin Trudeau. He's done nothing to interrupt the flow of illegal money that has inflated housing prices and allowed criminals to operate with impunity here in Canada. We need law enforcement to have the ability to track this money, to arrest the perpetrators, and to prevent it from happening so that our homes are for Canadians to live in, not for international criminals to launder with.
These are very good talks, and I did so many interviews with the politicians. But how decisiveness it is, how decisive you are. We need results on how confirm you are, how rock you are in it, how you will do everything you just promised.
I believe in what I say, and I'm going to do what I say. It's about time. For too long, we've had politicians who say anything but don't do it. I've been saying the same things, Harjit, for 18 years in Parliament. You look back at my entire career, I've said the same thing the entire time, and I'm going to stand by those things.
Let us talk about your now campaign, how it is going, how many membership you already signed, and when your party is going to decide who will be the leader.
Well, they're deciding now. People are literally mailing in their ballots today. The deadline to receive them is September 6th, and the announced result will be September 10th.
Yep.
And if I win, then I will begin work immediately thereafter. I've signed up 311,959 new members through my website alone. And so we're going to get those people out to vote, win the leadership, and then get on with the job of tackling inflation and putting people back in charge of their paychecks and lives.
What do you think, when will be the next federal election?
Oh, boy, I'm better at predicting the past than the future. The challenge is we have a minority government, but a coalition, the NDP and the Liberals, and they together are holding power. But I don't know when it will be, but I know it will be about. Do you want to have Justin Trudeau and the NDP continue to drive up the cost of your life, make food, fuel, and housing more and more expensive? Or do you want a conservative government that will reduce debt, taxes, interest rates, and inflation? And that's what I offer.
From where you got this driving force? You were 24 when you elected as an MP, 18 years of your life.
Yes.
You put in politics, you have a young family. You started your life from very normal family. And what is the taste like? How you feel it?
Well, I believe in a bottom-up politics rather than top-down. I think that's because of where I come from. I'm a Western Canadian, so I understand that the West has been pushed around by Ottawa for too long. Secondly, I was born of a 16-year-old unwed mother who had just lost her mom, so she couldn't raise me, so I was adopted by two Calgary school teachers who raised me, and they taught me to believe that it didn't matter where I came from. It mattered where I was going. It didn't matter who I knew, but what I could do. And that's the kind of country I want. I want everybody who comes here or is born here to believe that it doesn't matter where they come from, whether their name is Singh or Smith, whether the name is Martin or Muhammad. They can work hard and achieve their dreams. And that's the country that we're going to bring back here in Canada.
Mr. Poilievre, that's what we have today. And
Yes.
I was waiting for this interview from long, because when you sit one-to-one, then that's the real interview.
Absolutely.
And I hope and pray that you stick with your words you promised with all my listeners today. And very best wishes for your leadership bid.
Thank you very much, my friend. Great to be with you.
Thank you. Thanks.